Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Dennis. That is my crime. It is also my punishment. And welcome once again to a little stream. Actually going to turn that down just a little bit more. Adjust the levels a little bit there. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. So it's been a minute. It has actually been a minute since I've been on stream and everything, not including the fun little Christmas game I played with Dinner a Game over on Twitch. Basically was planning on doing a little bit more for the holiday season. A couple of things fell through. Health issues, this, that, and the other. Not mine, just, people organizing and everything. But that was the very first time I've done stuff with that channel. Had a lot of fun working with them. Very different setup to what I've been used to. It's been so long since I've been a player in the game. And that was my very first Cyberpunk experience as well, actually. We hit the ground running pretty quickly. Was the very first time I've been using something like the Google Hangouts. Oh my gosh. Google Hangouts, and like just their whole setup and everything was like very interesting. They were using auto-generated subtitles for people, which I thought was really cool. And I actually remember back in the day I was trying auto subtitles here on let's see. Yeah, I actually do have the captions thing up at the moment, but I don't think it's actually plugged into anything. I think I just ended up turning off the captions because they were just running my machine a little bit too slow. It wasn't really handling it very well. But anyway, regardless of all of that, had a really good time playing with them. And basically, I would say I've been trying this past year to do a couple of different things. I was not doing much with tabletop, mainly because all the stuff that had been going on with Wizards of the Coast was just, frankly, depressing me. And I wanted to try and do something a little bit different. Hence the reason I was streaming a bunch of Baldur's Gate 3, Fallout. Really wanting to push Fallout this year. Do a couple of streams with Dr. Liliana Clunk, the character was playing in that. That was fun, but ultimately, wasn't really paying off. I did use the opportunity to pick up a copy of DaVinci Resolve and, reteach myself some video editing and all that. Back in the day when I first started YouTube, I was using programs like iMovie and stuff like that because I was an Apple user back then. And Resolve's really freaking good. DaVinci Resolve, if you've never actually used it, is a really, really good program. But the amount of time and effort that I was putting into for the videos and just the lack of response they were getting, it wasn't really worth the time investment. And while I was having some fun, it became too much work, The original plan was to, as the dream is, monetize your leisure time. But it just it just got a little bit too much to work with. So I basically hung that up to dry to the outcry of nobody. So, no big loss there. But I basically was going through a couple of things, and Tales of the Valliant, the Kobo Press edition of the Kobo Press 5e game had just been released, or it had been properly out for a little bit now, and the reviews were actually coming in. And so I decided, well, I might as well, give it a look, try and, get back into the thing that I actually care about, which was, working on my world, my setting. And for those of you who are, new to what I used to do, I haven't done it for a bit. But back in the day, I was, aside from a freelance illustrator, I was also working on a homebrew setting for 5e. And on the off chance there are people who don't actually know what 5e is, first of all, welcome. You are going to be so lost in the stream. Secondly, 5e is basically taken from the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. That tabletop RPG game. Apparently for some people the only tabletop RPG. However, I was working on that for a couple of years, and then January of 2023 happened, when there was a massive shake-up where Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro were putting into effect plans to basically reverse engineer the license that they have had for the 5th edition one hadn't been out like that long. I was saying 2014, 2020, almost a decade. Actually, yes, it had almost been out for a decade. Basically, they were trying to make a new version of the license that said, hey, we own kind of everything that you guys have put out that was inspired by our system. You didn't have to pay us anything back in the day, but now it's like no, we now own everything that you've been making for the past nearly 10 years. Obviously that didn't go down so well, and in a swing of the needle in the other direction, 5th edition itself, the core game rules, the core bones, the primary structure of 5th edition became Creative Commons, so it can be used by pretty much anybody, I believe, with like a share and share like thing. The minutiae is, again, the minutiae of all these different licenses and everything is kind of lost on me. I would recommend checking out someone with a little more of their finger on the pulse, like Sly Flourish. Sly Flourish, the Lazy Dungeon Master, they talk about this quite a lot in their show and everything. Cannot recommend him enough. Love his work. Love the Lazy Dungeon Master, and he's been doing a lot of stuff with Tales of the Valliant. And as I said, Tales of the Valiant is Kobold Press's original. Well, I say original. I've spoken about this before, but when the Open Gaming License fiasco first kicked off, Kobold Press and several other people like Critical Role or Darrington, Press, which is Critical Role's publishing arm, and a couple of other people, Matt Colville as well, I believe. They were basically announcing, okay, so we're not making D&D stuff anymore. We are going to be making our own unique system, like a completely separate game. And that's where we've got Dagger Hearts. And I forget what Matt Colville's one is, MCDM. For those of you who don't know, we'll be bringing them up again a bit later on. They've been working on their own little system as well. But Cobalt Press as well, they were working on a concept, and the initial draft was called Project Black Flag. It was very early on when they were working on it, and I was like very excited because in my previous games that I've streamed, which are set in the homebrew world, which I'm developing, aka the Vorsal, there was a lot of Kobold Press content which I was making use of, specifically creatures such as the Voidlings. And let me just, does it really matter? You have a 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I'm blanking there, so it's all good. But yeah, so it just made sense to latch myself onto, or like hitch myself to the Kobold Press / Black Flag wagon. Then Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro came out and said that, hey, guess what? Now all of the base version of the 5th edition of D&D is open source. Anybody can use it. We no longer have any rights to this, or exclusive rights, because we're working on D&D D&D 2025, or I think people are calling it. It's going through a bunch of different names, and the fact that they've not called it D&D 5.5 is a little bit of a mystery to me, but whatever. So when they released the original base version of 5e, Kobold Press and a couple of other people just like, snapped it up, and Black Flag was eventually rebranded into Tales of the Valiant, and Tales of the Valiant basically became a adjusted version of 5e instead of a more unique original system like what Daggerheart is. I'm actually okay with that. I am genuinely okay with that, because that allows me to use so much of the legacy content that Kobold Press had already produced in the past without any real trouble in regards to porting, adjusting, and so on and so forth. So that basically came to a bit of a head, and I've decided over the past year or so, if I'm coming back into tabletop stuff, look, I'm going to respect, any creators who are continuing to work with existing brand deals that they've made and everything. I'm not going to shame people for trying to make a living. But for myself personally, I think if you, as a starting YouTuber and everything, or starting creator in TTRPGs now, are coming into the frame and saying, hi, I am so into the official 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. That is the thing I am going to hitch myself to and nothing else. Too late. No, I mean, the interest has definitely started dying down there. In fact, there was one thing that really inspired me recently, and I'm just going to boop over to this screen real quick. This is from my Blue Sky, and this is someone I follow. This was Indestructiboy, who is a fairly well-known creator in the TTRPG space. Specifically, they've done a lot of really interesting 5e classes. Now, not everybody, most people focus on like races and subclasses and all that. He's actually made a whole bunch of different classes available for 5th edition games, which I'm in the process of looking into and might actually incorporate into my own stuff in the near future. We'll see. But anyway, one of the things he said like a couple of days ago, this was actually Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, 24th. It's like, out of the most successful, 100,000 plus raised crowdfunded TTRPG projects in 2023, 43 out of the 105 of those projects were 5th edition. In 2024, this has shrunk nearly 50% to 22 out of 106. These are wild times, folks. If this post gets traction, I just want to say a few things. Mount Black and I, MT Black, who is also another fairly well-known, very well-established independent creator for 5e content and other systems, I believe. MT Black and I actually make more money when D&D is popular, as we're both DM skilled creators. 2024 was also one of the biggest years for new system development, and Shadowdark is rising as another super hackable core akin to Morkborg. These are all different independent systems that other people build their games on top of, for context. This data comes from Kickstarter and BackerKit. It's only crowdfunding, and it doesn't account for retail, Drive-Thru RPG, or the DM's Guild. For my own sales, and what I've heard from other 5e third-party publishers, this data tracks almost one-for-one with storefront sales. I'm going to drop some advice and predictions for 2025 TTRPG content. 1. System neutral, rules light, and OSR content is getting popular. Familiarize yourself with BX, or you're missing out on a huge growing market. Full disclosure, I'm not too sure what BX means. This is my complete ignorance in the moment. I'm gonna have to, double check that. But basically, D&D third-party sales will continue to dwindle by another 20 to 30% from 2024 onwards. Depending on tariffs, international printing for US companies is about to become unviable. However, the margins on zine-based content tend to be around 85 to 95%, even for a $10 zine. Compare that to an 8.5 by 11-inch hardback. You're talking about 65 to 75%. You learn to love your 5.5 by 8.5 prints, or you're only shooting yourself in the foot. Again, if tariffs pass, the first US-based manufacturer that starts making dice, screens, miniatures, boxes, and books all in the US is set to become insanely powerful in the industry, as the changes I've gotten thrown my way for Chinese manufacturing swung as drastically as 20 to 100%. I say all of this to highlight, these are the conditions in which independent, bespoke content can thrive. Large-scale, international manufacturing may take a hit. It's on you to use that to your advantage and fill the hole I'm predicting will be left behind in this ecosystem. Learn Affinity Publisher. Research zines. Be happier making short-form content rather than the epic tomes games like D&D have brainwashed us into thinking are the only thing that can be successful. There's a real opportunity here for us to seize. And my response there, just underneath, is you, sir, have legit given me some serious shit to think about. Much appreciated. Happy holidays if you celebrate, and hope you have a great end to the year. So yeah, this kind of also, hello Baron, how are you doing? Welcome. I had a pretty decent holiday, all things considered. Yes, it was nice, it was chill, pretty relaxing, and yeah, basically something simple, lasagna, very nice. But yeah, on the topic of this, Indestructible Boy, it basically reminded me of what I was doing before I started working on these like really big long-term projects, which incidentally have yet to see the light of day. And it's the fact that before I did that, I was actually producing small, independent, self-published zines based on my setting. Basically, I was making mini dungeons and small self-contained adventures with a ongoing story arc that would go to the next little zine and the next little zine, and we were going to conventions and releasing them, and they actually did really well. It's only when I obviously that when COVID hit and we were unable to really go anywhere or do anything, that I was focusing more on getting the big tome, the big book out of the way. And I'm more than happy to admit 4 to 5 years later, that was probably a mistake. So this is me basically looking at what other people have said and being like, yeah, that's actually pretty valid. And kind of pivoting back to, simpler, easier to make stuff. Hence, my plan for the next couple of, well, technically years, the way this is set up. So, allow me to zoom us in a little bit, and I will give you all a little bit of a vibe check as to what's going on here. So, should probably also give you context as to what the Vorsal is. So, this is my world. Welcome to my world. Won't you come on in? I've spoken about it enough on various streams to know that. You get the basic gist as to what it is. In essence, it's a fantasy, you know, sort of like less medieval fantasy, more Renaissance fantasy, where you know, you've got all the various you know, Tolkien-esque races. They're all just you know, chilling around doing their own thing. There's various kingdoms, various locations, various factions. So far, so normal. However, there are a couple of differences, mainly the fact that every single night when everyone goes to bed and they dream, they are reminded that dragons do not exist. There are no shape-shifting people wandering the streets, adjusting their memories of things they do not need to know. There are no invisible cities flying through the sky or monitoring them. There is nothing dwelling deep below the surface, plotting to retake the world. There are no ancient beings from beyond the dawn of time that dwell within the deep oceans, looking to wipe the surface clean of life. And anybody who thinks otherwise is basically dragged into a small room somewhere and has a more invasive experience, where they basically, the next day, they're either seen and like, I don't know what you're talking about here. I didn't see any sort of dragon. Dragons don't exist. It was just some weird fire elemental or something. Or there was just an earthquake. Or they're just never seen again. So that's kind of the broad strokes about what the Vorsal is. There's obviously a lot more minutiae and nuance there, but broad strokes, I would say the major tonal influences would be things like the Netflix show 1899, the movie Adjustment Bureau. I would say those, and I would say the game Sons of the Forest. Actually, no. Sons of the Forest is the sequel. The original one, The Forest. You know, if mild spoilers, you spend all this time wandering through this forest, cannibals and everything. You're wondering what on earth is going on. And then, like, you know, the final act, you start to peek behind the curtain and see the way the world really is. That is kind of the vibe I'm going for with the Vorsal. It's a world that presents itself as a very basic, normal fantasy setting, and you can run pretty much any kind of game that you would in a regular fantasy setting. However, there's a lot more. There's hidden things going on all around you, and there's a lot of secrets to be slowly peeled away and uncovered. I spent a lot of time working on internal consistency, making sure we're not just coming up with a random shit, you know, for the sake of it. There are actual mysteries to be explored as things go on. Another big influence on this one, I would say, would be the Numenera games. Was it Monty Cook? There was a specific series of games that focused on like the Numenera setting. Basically ancient technology being misconstrued as magic, that kind of stuff. So anyway, all that having been said, the idea is that I was working on a the original idea was hopefully to get like this section here, which is called the Crux, you know, this particular bunch of regions and everything. This was going to be the main book, you know, the original starting point. This was back when the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount first came out, because, you know, big critter, big fan of Critical Role and everything, and Wildmount itself was a really interesting place. And so I wanted to try and create so like my version of it. So this is kind of like this is basically the player character starting location, or just that continent. This is, as far as player characters are concerned, this is pretty much the real world, the normal world. Other places, they've kind of heard of them, but they don't really go there, okay? But as I was going in deeper and deeper into the different locations and the different, you know, sub-kingdoms and everything, I realized that it was going to take a while to make. So I ended up breaking it down into just this particular location here. Let me see if I can actually get and that would be the coalition. The coalition. That's going to be this section here. Basically, these 9-ish, 10-ish kingdoms, which basically they have their own particular agreements, trade partnerships, open borders kind of thing. It's very Westerosi, you know, Game of Thronesy sort of area, with, again, a couple of twists. And again, it's like, as I started going down deeper and deeper and adding a little more depth to the different areas, I started to realize that oh no, I've actually made a incredibly difficult and deep you know, thing that is going to take me a long ass time to do, especially when I am the only person working on this, and, you know, I do full-time work and blah 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 blah. Anyway, so this is all stuff I've shared before. Each one of these locations is a basically self-contained little area. It's going to have various NPCs, a couple of story hooks, and things that are going to send you on your way. Now, the plan is what you're seeing here. All of this is going to be the 2025 release. So I'm not doing the entirety of the coalition next year. It's just not happening. What I'm basically focusing on is each quarter I'm going to be releasing a new zine, a new book that focuses on just one of the kingdoms. And no, I don't want a new piece. So for those of you who have never seen it before, let's actually just go to the Oriana one. I can't get the lid one to open for some reason. So each one of the zines is going to focus specifically on one of these kingdoms. Each one of these hexes is like 5 miles wide. This is the maps and everything is still kind of a work in progress in regards to some of the details, because basically all my old files were kind of damaged a little bit because I was importing things from Photoshop over to Critter. Critter, unfortunately, not as useful as I would like it to be, so I'm probably going to be moving to Affinity Designer in the new year. The moment that goes on sale, I am grabbing Affinity Designer. But yeah, so you see like this particular location here, this one specific kingdom has all these different provinces, all these different cities, these towns, these villages, these ruins, these forts. Each one of these are filled with story hooks and all that. Yeah. I'm also hoping to so this one here was the Oriana one. I've not written anything down yet. I'm hoping to basically break down for each quarter. You can see here we're opening with the March quarter, this book here, which I'll get to in a second. Then we've got Lilith, we've got Argyros, we've got Ariana for June, September, December. The hope is, as well as just a breakdown of the kingdom, NPCs, quest hooks, story hooks, we also have maybe an article or two on some of the more specific things going on. For example, Aboleth. What's that? What are they to do with the setting? If you've watched the stream from a couple of years ago on the Journeys Plays channel, you would probably know, yeah, Aboleth are actually really, really, really important to this setting. And because they are a Creative Commons creature, I can use them legally. Yay! So that's nice. But before all that, what I'm currently focused on and developing right now is a primer. Now, originally, you can see here, this was going to be, the intention was maybe have this be free, have it focused on the Black Flag Orc license instead of a something that's specifically for Tales of the Valiant, which would be a slightly different license and everything. Because Black Flag, Tales of the Valiant, technically two different things. Again, I've been speaking with a bunch of people. There's a lot of minutiae going on there. But yes. In essence, you have yourself a good one, Baron. Take care of yourself. Thanks for dropping in. In essence, the idea was that the primer was going to be a small, self-contained zine, or at least a very, a reasonably small publication. And I was going to release it for free. It was going to be something where, rather than have the same information repeated every single time I put out a big book, such as, the setting guide for the other parts of the Crux, or, some of the other DLC locations like Rannenberg or Chakram, or all the other different landmasses. Rather than have all of this information copy-pasted in every single one, I figured, screw it, let's have all of the important setting stuff, the tone setting, in one original book. Release that for free, and so they're more inclined to buy the bigger books. Now that I'm going more for the zine stuff, part of me is like, no, but I want the money. But, screw it. I think I am just going to stick it as free. I'm going to keep it for free. So there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot in this one. And chances are it is going to... when I'm going to conventions, it is going to be at a cost. I think if I'm doing this at conventions, I will have to charge something, if only because I'm signing them and everything. These are going to be physical handouts that, I'm having to pay money and shipping for, But, so at the very least, people will be paying the shipping costs. But all of the stuff that I'm showing off here is going to be based and built on top of this initial release, which my intention is to get this out for March. Would be nice. Yeah, I would love to get this out for March, but basically this is just a these are like really loose dates at the moment. Trying to figure out a rough release schedule, like once a quarter I'm releasing something. So if all goes well, I've released 4 books each year. So we've got the primer, then we have the Kingdom of Lilith, Kingdom of Argyros, Kingdom of Oriana. That's finishing up in December. And then the next year, we have 4 more parts of this particular kingdom, this particular set of kingdoms. Each of them with their own plot lines, their own, interactions with each other in different ways. And maybe if there's stuff like, say, in 2 years' time, I make something in like Fiera over here, and I'm like, there's going to be some tie-ins to stuff that was going on in Lilith. Then you just add the DLC right there and say, hey, if you're doing characters in Lilith, just add this NPC here, blah, 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 blah. Stuff like that. and just sort of release it in that format. That is something that I'm hoping to do. So it 3 years is not what I wanted in order to get this book out, but realistically, I've been working on it on and off for 5 years, and I'm nowhere near having something that I can release yet. So this is probably the only way it's going to get done. Also, because there's so many locations, I better hope people are interested in it. I better hope people care enough about this particular Westeros slash Game of Thrones-esque region for them to actually give a crap, because there's so many. The problem with what I have in my head and trying to get it down is that there's a lot, and it's really, really hard. You probably picked this up if you've watched any part of my streams, including this one. It's very, very hard for me sometimes to not blurt out everything at once in a random stream of consciousness. Trying to properly parse it out and dish it out in an orderly and organized manner in a way that people find entertaining and interesting is something that concerns me. And I really, 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 really want people to be excited for this world and for the stories that I'm going to be helping people tell with this material. Because at the end of the day, sincerely, the main point of these materials is these are tools to help you run an interesting game. These are tools to help you run an interesting story. It's not a case of me sitting down and saying, look at all the pretty pictures, look at all the cool stuff I made, look at my interesting world, isn't it interesting, aren't I interesting? These are intended to be tools that can bring value to your table and your players. So, time will tell if this works out or not, but that is the initial release schedule that I'm kind of going with at the moment. Now, that's just the zines. That's like the big stuff there. The other thing that I'm working on is going to be something a little bit different. Now, it actually does partially take place in one of the areas that we were looking at. It's all set in, of course, all in the same homebrew setting. It's all set in Vorsel. There is a particular game or a particular series of books that I've been really interested in the past few years, ever since I started working on Vorsel in detail. And this was the MCDM book. Let me just bring it up real quick. Over here on... Here we go. Do we get any artwork? There we go. I apologize. So, let me just bring you over to the correct scene real quick. Okay. There we go. Yeah. So, Strongholds and Followers. Strongholds and Followers is a book by Matthew Colville, MCDM. And in essence, this is Bastions before Bastions. I find it a far more interesting and involved and mechanically interesting version of Bastions, rather than what could most likely be just an attempt of Wizards of the Coast to get some money out of people through cosmetics and their digital tabletop. Yeah. No shade on Ginny G or any of the other people who work with them in regards to their promotion. I want to be very clear about that. I'm a big fan of everybody who works in this space and the stuff that they do sincerely. No shade on them. I personally just have no respect for that particular publisher anymore. But Strongholds and Followers. When this came out, I was really excited by the concept of a bunch of characters stumbling into or being rewarded a ruin, a castle, a keep, a tower, a stronghold that they can help fortify, build up, something that is part of the land, something that is a symbol of protection for the various people and everything around them. And as they continue to work on it, they gain not just mechanical benefits, but also they become more ingrained with the local scene, the local space, local politics. Instead of just a bunch of random wandering murder hobos, they are now part of the political map, whether they like it or not. And a large amount of the coalition specifically was it was already in this vein, but it just seemed like a perfect blend. It seemed like a really good combination. So Strongholds and Followers and the follow-up, Kingdoms and Warfare, there we go. Basically, can I not get that any bigger? Yeah, Fantasy Grounds. I'm still getting used to the Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop, so you have to bear with me in regards to the technical side of things. But yeah, both of these books, really big fan of the stuff they do. So Strongholds and Followers mainly focuses on building up your location and the people around it, and then Kingdoms and Warfare, that's more about political intrigue between all these different political factions in the region, and also large-scale combat. So I have been working for the past month or two, I want to say about 2 months, I've been working on a campaign, a new campaign which I would like to stream at some point in the future next year. That is going to be based on this particular system, and as you can see, it is using the Tales of the Valliant system. This is one of my test characters. This is Walter, a Blood Hunter. Now, Blood Hunter is not a Tales of the Valiant sheet. How do I get my character? Sorry. The moment I start recording something or broadcasting something, my brain just goes out of the window and I forget everything. So, basically, let me just make sure that we can actually see what I'm doing here. Oh, it's very blurry. Let's just go with the actual capture. Nope. That was here we go. Game capture. There we go. So this is Tales of the Valiant, or rather this is a Tales of the Valiant screen. You can see here on the left, these are some of the different resources that I have included. Not just the monster guide or the player's guide for Tales of the Valiant and the various classes. Actually going to hit character wizard so we see where things go. You see like the long list of different options. So it's not just Tales of the Valiant, it's also Southlands, it's also the Midgard setting. We basically have a whole variety of different options. Most of them Kobo Press, but one or two, because I'm already using some MCDM content, I started looking into like the Illrigger, I've always been a big fan of the Blood Hunter as well, Matthew Mercer's class, and I actually posted a thing not too long ago about some of the third-party options that are available for 5th edition, because I've never really spent much time looking at the different classes that are available, and I was actually really surprised to learn just how deep some of these are. For example, Mage Hand Press, another company who I've used their stuff before. Mage Hand Press have a whole bunch of really interesting original classes, such as the Alchemist, the Binder, the Captain, the Craftsman, the Gunslinger, the Investigator, the Martyr, Necromancer, Vagabond Warden, War Mage and Witch, and of course Indestructible himself. I know that he also has a bunch of different homebrew classes. There's a lot. There's a lot, which I'm still in the early days of looking into and seeing what fits for my table and what doesn't. For example, another thing that I was looking at was like the Ultimate Adventurer's Handbook. They have a massive number of different subclasses and, you know, this, that, and the other. But in all honesty, when I was going through it, a lot of the stuff doesn't really quite fit with, you know, the setting of Ursula and what I'm going for. Might also be looking into a bit of Ghostfire Gaming as well. The Grim Hollow. I have used Grim Hollow in the past for my games. And I do think that maybe some Grim Hollow stuff would be perfectly appropriate for this particular project I'm working on. But anyway, just wanted to explain some of the stuff going on there. But back over to the actual game itself. One of the things that that made me choose Fantasy Grounds over something like Foundry Virtual Tabletop, which is something I have a lot more experience with. Fantasy Grounds is one of the few that allows a blending of Tales of the Valiant and legacy 5e content such as this. So it just seemed like the better option. Maybe I should actually pick a character first. Let's actually go with a Tales of the Valiant character. So let's go with a fighter. Doesn't really matter too much about what skills he has and everything. And then let's go with his background. He is apparently they are a blood sister, whatever that means. But the lineage, this is one of the biggest things about Tales of the Valiant that's different from other things. You can have your Tales of the Valiant lineage, which unfortunately I think it is incredibly open-ended, but it's also kind of limiting. I don't know. I'm really on the fence with the lineages as they stand at the moment. I think I need to have a little bit more time to work on them and everything. But the basic shtick is you choose a heritage, like your biological heritage, and then you choose a upbringing. So you see here, like, all the orc has all the same heritages as like a kobold or a human does, because just because you are born one thing doesn't mean you couldn't be raised somewhere else, if that makes sense. So let's go. But what I've included as well is you see all these other things in between the Tales of the Valiant stuff. These are all of the different player options which I've picked up that were also Kobold Press character options from their other settings guides, like the Southlands, from the Underworld Player's Guide, from the Midgard Heroes Handbook, and I believe Tome of Heroes as well. Yeah, stuff like that. So I'm gonna say let's just go with an orc. And what heritage will he have? He's an orc who was raised in a cottage. Sounds great to me. I'm not really focused too much on the actual specifics. This is just to show you how easy it is to mix and match these different things. I'm just going to go with standard array. You can move things around this way fairly easily. And sometimes I've noticed that whenever I try and mess around with the standard array, that's when things get a little bit wonky. So give me 1 second. Console skip. That's going to hide all the error messages. Got some starting equipment. Very nice. And then you just commit your choices. And there you have a brand new character sheet, complete with all the various skills, all the various traits for a Tales of the Valliant character. Now, as I said, I could have had a Tales of a Valliant class, but with a Legacy 5e race, or I could have flipped it around. You know, it's like there's a whole bunch of different options that you can do there in regards to how you use the resources and so on and so forth. So that is kind of why I'm focusing on Fantasy Grounds to host everything. It's like it's just nice to have everything in one place rather than have to do a bunch of you know, programming and data entry, because at the time of recording, trying to get you know, Foundry to have Tales of the Valiant and Legacy 5e content together in the same screen is sadly nigh impossible, which is very frustrating there. So that's that. But yeah, so that is the campaign I was excited on running. Not too sure when. There's still a lot of early setup to do. I'm actually going to... This is actually the correct screen. We have, as you see here, this is the base map of Oriana. I was basically going to have this political, you know, machination campaign involving strongholds and followers, kingdoms and warfare. That was going to be set in this particular location because I think the Kingdom of Oriana, out of all the different locations I have that I'm developing right now, I think that Oriana is rife for some political upheaval. There's a very corrupt ruler. There's a lot of really interesting faction play going on, and while the southern end is all touristy and expensive, the northern portions are kind of filled with literally bandit barons, you know, large gangs of bandits who are terrorizing the local villagers for money to send to their lord, the king. So I think there's a perfect spot. Like this particular location here, I basically had like a small paragraph that, yeah, there's a village here. There's something interesting. Yeah, still a work in progress. And from that little seed, I created this. So you can see here that this is the actual original map, or a copy of it. I basically cropped things out a little and I blew it up about 300%. And I then went deeper. And again, this is that little village of Cran Lake. This is where this is the village that the player characters are going to be protecting. Eventually, there is a small location called Fort Penrose that they are going to acquire. And these are some of the various villages, locations, forts, towns, cities, ruins, and other various bits and pieces which are going to be a factor in whether or not they live to see another day. A lot of this campaign is going to be based around them trying to make allegiances with nearby villages, towns, encampments of supposedly monstrous creatures who may or may not have more in common with the player characters than the officially recognized law enforcement, aka the bandits. So, I've spent a little bit of time going deep into some of the, the minutiae, like roughly where everything is in relation to everywhere else. As I said previously, each one of these hexes is like 5 miles, so there's lots of moving pieces, lots of political chicanery, and lots of interesting locations for them to explore and do the usual dungeon delving of interactions with getting up to scrapes and adventures, while also managing a ruined fort and the needs of a small village, and protecting them from all the bad people who want to take the fort away from them. And that was basically what I was focused on doing more than anything else. However, recently, I came across something very interesting. There was a Ginny commercial for a over the holiday period. There was basically a Ginny commercial that kept showing up on my social media for a player race that she was involved in. Very interesting concept. Basically, dragons. Player character dragons. This is from a third party. This is a range called Battle Zoo. I forget the name of the actual publishers. Real quick, I want to give them the credit. Roll for Combat. I believe this was based on like a podcast or something. I am sadly not familiar with these guys. This time last week, I did not know this existed. However, the moment I learned that this existed, I was like, oh no, this is fucking sick. This is cool. And so I have, unfortunately for me, out of nowhere, developed an entire second fully fleshed out campaign. My initial idea was, hey, a bunch of dragons who, because again, in my setting, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, in the world of Warsaw, dragons, quote unquote, don't exist. They actually do. They are a major existential threat. However, there are beings that have gone very far out of their way to ensure that the normal mundane people of the world do not know about them. So I thought it would be really interesting if you played as those these alpha predators, these great, powerful, existential threats, as they're sneaking their way through the regular mortal world, not caring about the small, insignificant townsfolk or anything like that. No. They're more concerned about the great celestial threats hovering in the sky, invisible, wandering amongst the villagers, adjusting their memories, and so on and so forth. I like that. It's the same with Vampire the Masquerade. It's the way I've always run World of Darkness games. I like the idea of my player characters being monsters and enjoying the fantasy of being monsters, but reminding them that you're not the only monsters in the world, and there is always going to be something so much worse than you, so much more powerful and dangerous and weird. And that's kind of the energy that I started to bring to this concept, where I'm like, okay, they have to sneak into enemy lines, which is the quote-unquote player character setting that I mentioned previously. The where are we now? The crux, which is like this main section over here, and they need to do a little bit of interaction. They need to basically find an artifact or something. They just need to, Ocean's 11 style break into a place, grab an artifact and head out. And I was thinking, okay, this would be like a 4-session mini arc. And then my brain happened. You see, while I was working on the Coalition setting guide and some of this other stuff a couple of years ago, I also had a small short draft of about 12 pages for another campaign, a self-contained setting that I will simply refer to as The Abyss. The Abyss is a self-contained pocket dimension that is heavily inspired by the Dark Souls franchise. So, my brain, which I hate, suddenly made the connection. What if this bunch of dragons, they're sneaking through the normal mundane setting, they discover the artifact, but the artifact is a prison for an ancient prison created by something that even the dragons don't fully understand. And the things within should not be released. So they get drawn into the prison, and the majority of the campaign are these alpha predators trying like hell to get out. The final ingredient of this little scenario is this that Kobold Press released not too long ago. It's called Souls-like role-playing, where it basically includes rules and a concept campaign where your characters are not allowed to die. They are trapped and they have to basically get resurrected again and again and again until they defeat a particularly powerful entity that is holding them in place. You see where my brain's going? You see where this is going? So I now have this second campaign where a bunch of dragons are trapped in this Dark Souls-esque pocket dimension, and even death will not release them. They keep getting brought back again and again as they're fighting all these bizarre, strange, horrifying creatures that have been also trapped here for millennia. There's entire cultures of people who have been trapped here, unable to die. A whole weird, bizarre petri dish of different civilizations throughout the ages that have just built up a culture. And when I say it's like Dark Souls inspired, this isn't like a small room or something. Basically, I would say the region would be maybe about, let's call it an island size, like a small island size. Or actually, if you think about it, like roughly the space of like maybe the original Dark Souls, if not a bit bigger. And each of these different regions has its own small faction, its own small group of people who they kind of begrudgingly live alongside each other because Lord knows they can't kill each other. What's that going to achieve? And they're all trapped there. They're all dancing to the machinations of and the whims of the thing that keeps them there. So, yeah, our draconic heroes now realize that they have to figure out what the hell is going on and how the hell to get out of here. Unless they want to, be permanent residents of the Aphotic Abyss. So, that's campaign number 2. Both of these freaking things, one of them which I've spent months and months and months setting up, and the other one I literally just came up with 3 days ago. are equally warring in my head right now. And I genuinely am at a bit of a loss as to which one I'm going to be focused on streaming, because Lord knows, doing the self-publishing, working full-time, and also running 2 streamed games and a paid private game that I run on Tuesdays, the Call of Cthulhu game. For those of you who don't know, I run a paid game on Start Playing. I will never sleep again. I will have a nervous breakdown. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do that. So yeah, that's what's going on in my 2025. I mean, that and, you know, fears of being deported and blah, 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 other stuff. But, you know, hey, that's the same with everybody else in America. So, you know, that's par for the course. This is all more to, you know, keep me occupied in the meantime. But yes. Jokes aside, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff that I would like to do, stuff that I'm really excited about, and watch this space, I guess, because I still at this exact moment don't know which of these 2 campaigns I'm really going to go for. Because here's the thing, with the Kingdoms and Warfare campaign, the one set in Oriana and everything, that one's, I've got a lot of stuff prepped. I've got a lot of stuff set up. It's all programmed in. You saw on Hero Forge, not Hero Forge, sorry, Fantasy Grounds, all the stuff that I have baked in and ready to go. No. Oh my gosh. He's panicking. He's just... No, don't do the replay. There we go. Oh my gosh. Oh no, it's all falling apart, Timothy. Anyway, so I have spent so much money, and because this isn't these aren't things that I've downloaded off a torrent or something. These are all things I paid money for. These are all the official releases for Fantasy Grounds, so I could run this specific system and everything. And the other stuff that I'm looking into, the Battle Zoo thing, that is yeah, oops, this stuff is not from Fantasy Grounds. This is something that I would have to program in myself. I know that they have, like, the Pathfinder version is available on Fantasy Grounds. I don't believe the 5e version is. But yeah, it's just like, oh my god, I'm never going to sleep. I'm never ever going to sleep again, you know. But just look at it though. This is so cool. It's like it's a dragon, but it's got a scythe, and it's like a dragon's got like Klingon type bat'leth blades. That's so fucking sick. I'm kind of irritated because, again, the campaign that I put all this time and effort into, I think is really interesting and all that, and there's a lot of like particular flavor and nuance to it, is boring compared to playing dragons on an Ocean's 11 type mission, and then you're stuck in a freaking Dark Souls game. One of those is an interesting elevator pitch, the other is not. So, you know, I don't know. So, first world problems, am I right? Anyway, that is some of the stuff that I am working on for 2025. Yeah, I am. It's going to be an incredibly busy year. I am going to be a very busy individual. But hopefully this is going to be content that people actually care about. You know, people actually, and this isn't me being like, please like my work. It's like, no, I am doing the absolute level best I can to make entertaining, interesting, useful content. The books that I'm going to be releasing, they are intended to be, player aids, something that's actually going to see use at a game table. The streams that I'm going to be doing are hopefully going to be entertainment that, I'm showing people stuff that they will remember. These are going to be games and experiences and adventures that my players and the people watching will remember, rather than something that's just intended to quote unquote be content, boost an algorithm, and make me lazy money, which is not what I want. I would like it to make money. I would like to make a living doing this thing, and it is my intention to truly work my ass off and produce these things. However, should things not go the way I would like, this isn't an ultimatum. But I definitely want to at least finish the coalition. If in 2 years' time I'm not making headway, I'm not making people interested in the setting, I'm not making I'm not talking about like millions of dollars or whatever. It's like, if I'm not making a reasonable return on the time and work investment with these things, I'm probably going to retire the projects and pivot to something else, because the simple fact of the matter is, I love the hobby. I love creating things. I love sharing my creations with people. But even though I work full time, a full time wage in this world is not enough. It has not been enough ever since I was a child. That's just a simple statement of fact. And I am doing this to help create a supplementary income that allows me to exist in reasonable comfort and not be morbidly afraid of being homeless in a foreign country. So, and my previous efforts, the previous content that I pull out and everything, has not quite hit the mark. So, this is my next step. This is the next stage of me attempting to do the thing. So, that in essence is that, basically. I'm not trying to be negative or anything. It's just I'm just being realistic. I have a lot of expenses. For reasons outside of my control, I do live in a fairly expensive region. The percentage of money that I have as a person living in the place that I am, a high percentage of that goes towards taxes and rent and all the other important things, meaning that I am insanely frugal when it comes to personal expenses and everything. The amount of money that I've put into Fantasy Grounds is only because of the major sales that have just been on, and also the fact that I really am trying to push this next project as a thing. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It is what it is. But I just wanted to be cards on the table and be like, this is something that I genuinely am trying to get off the ground. This is something I'm very serious about. And anybody who's interested in jumping in on these streams or these projects, anybody who does work in the TTRPG scene who would be interested in collaborating and all that, as a player in a stream, or assisting with the self-publishing side of things, or heck, even just proofreading and everything, I'll take what I can get at this point. But I guess that's pretty much it. That is the main meat and potatoes of the talk that I wanted to have with you all. I am erring on the side of positivity. I am choosing to be proactive. I am choosing to be positive. I am choosing to create. I am choosing to spend my limited time, my very limited time, creating and sharing those creations and hopefully creating something that people find value in. That's basically it. I would like that to pay out for me. I would like that to work out. But if it doesn't, if at the end of the day, nothing comes of this and everything, I would at least like to look back on it and look at a bunch of self-published releases and a couple of shows that I have made and be like, I did the thing. I made the thing. So, what else matters? But yeah, that is pretty much it, in all honesty. I think there was a little bit of minutiae, but I think we got all the important stuff there. So, yeah. I truly hope that each and every one of you are taking care of yourselves. I really hope that this time of year is treating you well. And I truly hope that I get to see you this time next year, where we're doing this again and we're talking about all the things that went well, all the things that we're really happy about, and all of the really good progress that we have made. I guess the final thing would be, there have been some offers. I have had someone offer to have me run a bunch of paid games at a local convention sometime next year, but that is something I might actually just not be doing, because the amount of workload that will require, the number of games I'm running per day, and a bunch of other factors involved, are making it not desirable, and I do appreciate the offer and everything, but it's like, considering the amount of work that I have planned, which I have laid out before you all, like all the stuff that I'm trying to get done this year already, and the fact that this would be eating up my very limited vacation time, means that I'm probably going to have to pass on it, which I feel bad about, because on paper it seems like a pretty good opportunity to, meet people in the local area who are interested in this kind of thing. But I don't know, time will tell. But yeah, if you are interested in the games that I run and everything, be sure to check out my profile on Start Playing. I usually post a link to the Call of Cthulhu game that I run on Tuesdays, and I will be posting a casting call for the various streamed games, which I intend to run in 2025. However, in regards to a date on when I'm going to be running those and which ones I'm running, I have no freaking clue. No clue whatsoever. But yeah, I'm going to be posting the archive of this up on YouTube for anybody who missed the beginning or who want to watch it after Twitch has deleted it from the archives. I'm just struggling to see if there was anything else I had planned. I actually had a whole list of show notes which I was going to go through, and I didn't even look at it once. Yay! I'm so professional. We did the quarterly release. We looked at the different locations, campaign plans, all the stuff with MCDM, Mage Hand Press, Battle Zoo, the Abyss. But yeah, that's actually, I pretty much followed my notes even though I didn't read them. I'm a genius. So, I want each and every one of you to be good to yourselves, to be safe, be well, and I hope to see you all again in the new year. If there's anything that I've been talking about today that you are interested in, please do hit me up on Blue Sky. I do actually need to update the little thing that you've got down there where it's got like the Twitter icon and the blue sky icon. My Twitter account is locked. I have no intention, much like Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, I have absolutely no intention of returning to Twitter. I know a lot of people are there, but frankly, at this point, why? Just leave. Just leave. For God's sakes, just fucking leave. Anyway, be good to yourselves, be safe, be well, and I truly look forward to seeing you all again in the near future. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.